Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Michelle Quirk. I am a pediatrician and a run coach and founder of Mindful Marathon, where I help make running easy and fun for busy professionals. And today I am joined by my wonderful friend, Dr. Adam Harrison, and we are going to be talking about limiting beliefs and how to turn negative beliefs into positive ones. We're going to be talking about confidence and what limits it, and perfectionism. So all topics near and dear to my heart. So Dr. Adam, thanks for being here with me. Please introduce yourself.
That was great. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm Adam Harrison. I'm a family physician by training, and then I trained as a lawyer. Then I worked in medical leadership as a medical director, had some leadership coaching, and was immediately converted, and then couldn't resist training as a leadership and executive coach. So that's primarily what I'm doing these days. I have an interest in career transitioners, burnout, physician burnout, and doctors being on the receiving end of toxic treatment at work by their leaders and their employers and their colleagues, and the consequences that they can suffer as a result of being bullied, and how coaching can help them deal with those problems. Very much like limiting beliefs and confidence issues, imposter syndrome, and things like that. So this is perfect. I'm really excited to talk to you today.
I'm excited to talk to you too. You wear many hats.
Yeah. More hats than I have heads to put on them, that's for sure. Yeah. So you're a run coach, and we're going to talk about the sort of parallels really between runners and doctors. You're obviously a doctor as well, so you are ideally suited to talk about this. I'm far from being a runner, but maybe you'll convert me.
Not a runner yet.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, yeah. I'm a runner in waiting, a runner to be. So do you want to start by talking about turning limiting beliefs into power beliefs in your running work? Would that be good?
Yeah. I think so. A lot of runners can probably relate to this, but we all have beliefs that we may not be conscious of, that we take with us, whether that be in the workplace or with us in our running and in our sport. And I'll just speak from personal experience, but when you know this story, but I wasn't always a runner. And I took with me for a long time that belief that I was not a runner and that I didn't belong, at the start line of races and running marathons, and that was for someone else, some other type of person, an athlete. I didn't think of myself as an athlete. And I think that followed me for a lot of years and really held me back from what I could have done in the sport maybe earlier. I'm not sure, but we come into it with all of that background. So I think the first thing is really to recognize that we have these beliefs that are kind of operating below the surface, and we might not be conscious of them. So it's very helpful to have a coach of some sort in your life, right, to help you identify these blind spots maybe in your own thinking, so that you can move past them. So I mean, that was a personal story, but a lot of runners, I would say another one is all or none thinking. We talk about having black and white approach to things, and a lot of us really want to follow, if it's a training plan, follow the training plan 100% to the T, and anything outside of that is just a fail. And it's not all black or white like that. So it's important to recognize that. And that took a long time for me personally to really be a little more flexible with myself and with my training, and flexible with running. So it comes up a lot. I think there are a lot of parallels between lots of high achieving professionals who are also athletic. So yeah. Can you talk about it, how it comes up for you in your coaching, like when you're coaching your clients?
Yeah, sure. I was just going to say, I think what at the end, what you were describing was probably touching upon perfectionism and what we're going to talk about in a bit, wasn't it, really?
Yeah.
In terms of wanting to stick to that running plan and, you know, hit everything kind of perfectly.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's a real doctory sort of trait, isn't it?
Yeah.
But and you said that you've you know, over time you've learned to manage that better and perhaps be kinder to yourself, more forgiving of yourself, more compassionate towards yourself, and so on. And how do you think you've achieved that? What things have you done to sort of not let that become a limiting factor for you?
Yeah, I think the first step for me was really keeping a journal. Like it started
Mm,
as a training journal of just
mm,
you know what run I did that day and how I felt, and
mm,
but writing a little bit about that and realizing
mm,
that
mm,
we call it, you know, a thought download, but you can call it journaling or
mm.
whatever it is you want. But
Yeah.
get the thoughts out of your head and onto the paper, and
Mm,
the overwhelming, you know, majority of thoughts there, looking through pages, you can kind of see what comes up frequently. And it was always
mhm,
this notion like that I'm not a runner, I don't belong here. So seeing it on
okay.
paper and kind of looking at that as an observer, you know, not as
Mm,
yourself,
mm,
but someone else saying like, oh hey, this thought's coming up for you quite
mm.
frequently, and recognizing that was like the first step. And then
Yeah.
you can kind of teach your brain to know when that's happening, you know, in the moment, when you
Okay.
start
Yep.
recognizing that thought. It doesn't have to be on paper,
Okay.
it can be more automatic, where you have that thought in
Yep.
the moment and you can change it. So for me,
Yep.
it was keeping a
Okay.
journal, writing it down. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So that's your inner critic, and it pops into your head, and you just think, this is not serving me, this
Mhm.
thought, and just bat it aside.
Yes,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was that easy at first, but coming up with,
No.
you know, coming up with thoughts instead that I did believe,
Yeah.
you know, and
Uh-huh.
finding the evidence for the alternative, the alternative thought, that
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
really important. You
Yeah.
know, like, okay, you've run, you know, X number of half marathons, you've been running for X number of years, you're tying on your sneakers,
Yeah.
you know, the majority of the days of the week, like
Yeah.
you belong here, you're a runner, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. 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 And so is that kind of a reframing then?
yeah,
And
exactly.
did you create um any power beliefs, any sort of like affirmations or mantras or whatever that you used to kind of
Yeah.
tell yourself?
Yeah, I think, well, I use mantras a lot
Mm, mm,
in running, but
mm,
yeah, I think you know, I will give a shout out to one of my favorite cycling coaches on my spin bike. But if anyone is familiar with Christine Diercole, she's a Peloton coach, and her mantra is I am, I can, I will, I do. And you know,
mhm.
using that and filling in the blanks of each of those phrases
Yeah.
was very helpful to me. Like, I am,
Yeah.
fill in the blank, I can, fill in the blank. And
Yeah.
you know, at first when I started listening to her and taking her classes, I kind of thought like, I don't really want to close my eyes and do this. But after doing that for a while, I started to notice it while I was running, that her voice was in my
Yeah.
head, and then her voice became my voice. So yeah, if you find a
Right. Yeah.
mantra that works for you,
Yeah.
that you know, you can call up in a moment of difficulty, that but it has to be something
Yeah.
that you believe, right? It
Yeah.
can't, you can't think, oh, that's too woo
Of
woo,
course. Yeah.
you know, but it has to be believable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. No, I see. I see. So yeah. So you asked me about working with doctors, and oh my gosh, I mean, how many limiting beliefs do we have? How long do we have? You know, I mean, we're full of imposter syndrome. I think I was discussing with someone last night. I think we're all on the imposter syndrome spectrum, you know,
Yeah.
from very little to, you know, crippling.
Yes.
But I think perhaps being a little bit more specific, because it's too broad otherwise. So working with the doctors that you know, have been on the receiving end of, you know, really quite unkind, that's perhaps being polite, up to toxic treatment from their leaders, or colleagues. You know, they you know, that can manifest with a lot of limiting beliefs, you know. So you know, victims of bullying, you know, they might think, you know, it's very personal, you know, it's only me they hate, it's only me they're picking on, you know, or start to feel that it's their fault, you know, I'm a bad person, I must be doing something wrong, or, you know, I'm no good at my job, you know,
Yeah.
that's why they're getting at me, you know. And so these, I mean, a lot of this, we talked about it before, is our inner critic at work, you know, uh, negative mind chatter. I think psychologists call it negativity bias, you know, the kind of anthropological concept of, you know, it's there to help survival from back in the caveman and cavewoman days.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think, you know, what I say to people is get a bit of a sense check first of all. You know, speak to your colleagues if there's anyone around, or run it by a trusted colleague, run it by you know, a trusted friend, and say, oh, this was the situation certainly from my perspective, you know, because obviously there's two sides to every story, but you
Yeah.
know, this is my side of the story. You know, you know, if it's a colleague, are they also feeling like they're being picked on or shamed or put down or whatever by that person as well? Because that's a good way of depersonalizing it then, isn't it? Okay, it isn't just me, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that's really powerful and empowering, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, if it is just them, you know, and they've had that kind of sense check, you know, do you think that you know, I deserve to be spoken to like that, or, you know, is it you know, am I being oversensitive, or was the boss just having a bad day, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
kind of put it into that kind of perspective. And then I think the things that arise from that, you know, that you then, you know, start to be limiting beliefs, you know, I'm no good at my job, you know, I'm a bad person. That's kind of classic
It
inner
sort of
critic, isn't it?
spirals, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you start to tell yourself all sorts of stories, don't you? You know, and so I think I don't know if you're familiar with the new Disney film Luca.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, it's pretty new. It's just come onto Disney Plus recently. So you know, I have young children, as you know, so that's my excuse for watching a lot of Disney. And yeah, so Luca makes a friend with a slightly older boy called Alberto, who kind of has a bit of a risk-taking approach to life, shall we say. He likes to get involved in lots of japes and scrapes, and including like creating these homemade scooters that he'll then run down a hill and off a ramp. And he tries to encourage Luca to go on this thing, and Luca's like, no, I can't do it. You know, I'm going to get hurt and whatever. And he's telling himself all these stories. And Alberto, who's a bit more, you know, kind of laissez-faire with life, it's like, no, you'll be fine. It's like, that's just Bruno. That's just Bruno telling you can't do it. And it's like, Bruno? It's like, yeah, Bruno's the voice in your head. So to deal with that, you know, all you have to do is say Silencio Bruno. And so there's this whole thing about Silencio Bruno in this film, which is fantastic. So like Bruno is the, you know, the negative voice that they're silencing, and then of course Luca does it. And yeah,
We all have to silence our inner Bruno.
Yeah, exactly. Other names are available.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
no offense to any Brunos out there. It's just from the film. But so I think that's one really potent way of dealing with it. Just, you know, choosing you know, whether to acknowledge thoughts that are serving us, or just to ignore them. As you say, it's a, you know, it's a slow and long process. You know, you can't just start, you know, wake up the next day and decide, like, today I'm gonna, you know, just you know, ignore all my negative thoughts, and it's going to be a purely positive day, and everything's going to be, you know, hunky-dory. And no, it takes a lot of work, and that's where things like journaling and affirmations and mantras and things come in. I have a mantra that I tell my victims of toxic workplace clients to use, which is, you know, I'm not alone. It's not my fault. You know, it's really common. You know, things like that, and just kind of keep telling themselves that it's you know, when they realize that, you know, the statistics show that so many other doctors are on the receiving end of that, then it, you know, the penny does drop that they're not alone. So, and I think with another way is to reframe things, you know. So you know, I talked about you know, could the boss be having an off day, a bad day, and, you know, you having a particularly sensitive day? I mean, you know, if it's a one-off, you can almost give people the benefit of the doubt. You know, they we don't know what happened to that person last night or on their way to work or something. You know, something might have happened. They may have had bad news, argument, something or other, and then they're just, you know, not being very good at keeping themselves in check. And I think you know, it can happen to all of us. So but you know, but ultimately, if you are genuinely a victim of these things, then you know, you need to turn around this negative thoughts that can become limiting beliefs and try and turn them into power beliefs. And I think you know, that this isn't really within the scope of our little chat, but there are lots of techniques you can use to turn limiting beliefs into power beliefs. And actually, you know, just simply, as I said, either depersonalizing it or like experience I've had, and many times I've been bullied by senior surgeons, for example. Actually, digging really deep and finding that courage to call it out is phenomenally empowering. And it's so not easy. You know, it's yeah, definitely not something you can just say, you know, today I'm gonna call it out. You need to prepare yourself a lot mentally for it. I think when it happened to me, I was pretty naive, and I just said it, and I felt so good afterwards. And you know, you stop feeling like a victim then. And then you can move forward with the power belief that you are, you know, you are strong, you are powerful, you will not tolerate this behavior. But
I think, all of what we talked about really is how to empower yourself, right? Like at the end of the day. And that'll look different for everyone, but yeah, hopefully we've given you some techniques here, no matter what you're dealing with, but whether
absolutely.
you're trying to, you know, work within your workplace or work on the athletic field, you know?
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, obviously they're both examples of where you can experience, you know, inner critic and limiting beliefs and so on, and stories that we tell ourselves. But am I right in thinking that, you know, with runners, it's more something you do to yourself, as opposed to having like an exogenous source of problem? Is that fair?
Yeah. For sure.
Okay, so should we talk about confidence then?
Yes.
Confidence in running, confidence in the workplace, and how that can get knocked, and how we can help with that.
Yeah, I think so. Confidence comes into play a lot, especially with beginner runners. I mean, this is where you can really make a difference in how you think about yourself and how you come to the sport. But I find that you know, a lot of people have ideas of who is a runner and who is not a runner, and a lot of people will tell me, you know, oh, I don't run, you know, I do a little bit of run walk, or you know, I did this half marathon, but I'm not a runner. I'm like, really? Okay. You know, and I thought the same thing. And my mom is a brisk walker, and she does a little bit of run walk, and she'll tell you, I'm not a runner, but she has, you know, the medal hanger, and she's won some age group, you know, awards. So we have ideas about who's a runner and who maybe is a marathoner and who is not. And I think a lot of that has to do with confidence. And
Yeah.
you know, what we see maybe when we look at social media or who we know from our own lives who is a runner and an athlete, and we may not identify with that.
Yeah.
So that's a huge thing, I think. And just really giving yourself some credit, right? Like,
Yeah.
we don't have
Yeah.
to be the fastest, we don't have to go a certain distance, you don't have to look a certain way, but that doesn't happen overnight. So
Yeah.
it's you know, easy for me to say lots of years into this, but I think
Yeah.
that one of the most important things that has come out of running and joining the running community and becoming a coach has been confidence that has really, you know, gone into all other aspects of my life, and has really, you know, I've taken it with me in the workplace and
Yeah.
in my family, and much better at setting boundaries. And just, I couldn't have predicted this, right? Like, just this
Yeah.
one thing and getting into
Yeah.
running and doing these races, but it really does, you build so much self-confidence along the way. And you know, it's different for everybody, but I just didn't show up to my first starting line with a lot of confidence, you know. And even
Yeah.
at that first marathon, I was still thinking at the start line, like, I'm not really sure if I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then, you know, once you do it, watch out, right? Because the
Yeah.
sky becomes the limit after that, and you're just not sure what else you might want to do and what you
Yeah.
can do. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really wonderful watching, you know, the transformation that people go through, and maybe they don't realize it at first, but it really does spill over into all aspects of life. That's why I love running so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with beginner runners then, um is it more that the is your confidence more likely to be knocked at the beginning? Because I'm thinking, you know, low confidence, and then how that kind of shifts into, you know, frank imposter syndrome. And obviously with imposter syndrome, you are already established and you are proficient, and that's the whole point about imposter syndrome, isn't it? It's
Mhm.
like, you know, you had, there's objective evidence that you can do this, you're regularly running marathons. So is it more which you know, the beginner runners, they don't have that yet, I'm guessing.
Yeah. And you know, at the first sign of something going awry, like, you know, this run didn't go very well, or, you know, it was so hot, I wasn't able to complete what I was supposed to complete. And, you know, and it can be easy to not give up completely, but to get knocked a little bit, right? Get
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
shaken
Yeah.
up. And then all of those negative thoughts and limiting beliefs that you had, that
Yeah.
maybe you shouldn't be doing this, that you can't do this, they tend to come up a little
Yeah.
bit there too. So it's like the first sign of anything going off the plan can really be a knock at the beginning.
Yeah.
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 And how do you help your beginner clients kind of, you know, reframe that confidence knocking, or you know, just get over it? How do you help them?
Yeah, I think it's important to always think about, you know, that it's a marathon and not a sprint, and think about the whole training cycle and what it is you're trying to accomplish. Like, these goals are not usually short term, and not going to happen overnight. And you know, my coach taught me this, that, you know, one bad run, one missed run, that's not going to matter in the whole scheme of a training cycle. Like, of
Yeah.
course, if it repeats and there's a pattern, then, you know, we can figure that out. But one off day, you know, that happens to everybody. And, you know, even if you do all of the things and you ate well, you slept well, you don't feel stressed, the weather was good, you can still have a bad run, and there may not seem to be a reason for it. So we just kind of, we write it down. We write it down and we chalk it up to a bad day, and we try to move past it. And then if we recognize patterns, or if it's starting to occur more frequently, we can figure that out. But most of the time it's a one-off. And it's the same. I mean, right now, you know that I'm watching the Olympic trials and eating up all of the running. But, you know, even the elite athletes, they have off days as well. And you know, going into such a high pressure situation, and well prepared, you know, and executing it to the best of your ability. And sometimes they have a bad day too, and it happens to be a race day. So
yeah. Do they do you find that beginners have really high expectations of themselves? And if, I don't know, if you look at an imaginary graph of like, performance or improvement over time, that they expect it to be either a perfectly straight, I'm definitely going to improve, over time, without any dips, or almost exponential improvement. Whereas in reality, it's a trend that should be going up over time, but it's very much going to be up and down.
Yeah, it's definitely important to, remember progress is not linear. And
Yeah.
I think what happens at the beginning is that they often make a lot of wins early on. Like we figure out, where we're at, where current fitness is at. We make running feel better and feel easier. And so there are all these wins at the beginning. And if, let's just say, they do a race or a time trial, they tend to do very well and run, faster than they thought. And so progress at the beginning can be made quite quickly. But then you get to a point where, yes, we reach where now really our current fitness is, and it's not as quick. And so sometimes people get hung up there, and it's like, no, we have, and training cycles are they're done in a way so that there's built-in time to rest. Like you can't just always build and build and build and build. At some point, you'll get tired, burned out, injured, something. So that's why there's rest and recovery in there. So it's kind of, we go up, we rest, we recover, we go up. Sometimes we go down. We have an injury, we have an illness, setback, life happens, but yes, I think at the beginning, I think a lot of people really want, and me too, right? I want everything to look like this, but that's
nice and tidy.
That's not how it goes.
Perfect. Putting a lot of pressure on ourselves. I think doctors are a lot like that, on their work, and maybe an analogy with running would be learning a new skill, like learning a new surgical technique, or learn even something as simple as learning how to cannulate patients or something like that. When you first start on the wards as an intern, you're there so much of your time, and so you're being exposed to loads of things, loads of procedures. You're doing a lot of stuff, so your development of your skills is really quite exponential, isn't it? But then it will plateau. We'll get to a point where it's like, I'm at a certain level now, and then you start to get a kind of bit frustrated and so on. It's like, why am I not improving in these other areas as well? So I mean, I was thinking about how confidence gets knocked for doctors in the workplace, and I think kind of going back to that analogy of procedures and learning procedures, I guess we're not all naturals at kind of putting in central lines and things like that, and when we make mistakes, that's going to set us back, isn't it? That's going to knock our confidence, and then I think it's more a lot of sort of interpersonal stuff, more the impact of how others are with us, how others speak to us or react to things. I mean, and I'm not just talking about toxic leaders. Again, I'm not going to go back to that, because we know that would knock your confidence. But other colleagues, nursing staff, kind of, calling you to ward, and you get asked to do something by them, and it's like, oh, well, yeah, you're not as quick as your colleague at doing that, or not as, why are you so slow, and whatever kind of offhand, comment it is. And even patients, being rude to us, dismissive to us. I don't want that useless doctor to try and put a needle in me again. They tried 20 times last night and didn't get it, or something like that. Or there's some kind of microaggression element to it. Depending on your gender or your ethnicity or something like that. I don't want that black doctor to come and see me, touch me, or something like that. You hear some really terrible stories, and I mean, gosh, that's just really going to knock your confidence, isn't it? So I think can you think of any other ways in the medical workplace that I mean, like, has your confidence been knocked in the past by things?
Yeah, I mean, as you were talking, I was thinking, I was having memories of my time as a student and a resident. But I mean, I remember a time as a resident, where all of us, the resident team overnight on pediatrics, we were an all-female team, and one of the patients had an emergency, and we were all pretty much at the bedside, and a parent asked for the the real doctor, the male doctor, and we said, well, we're it right at this moment, like he's coming from home, and it's going to be a while, but it's us. But so things that patients say, staff, but and sometimes it's so subtle. I mean, that was a very obvious example, but sometimes it's very subtle, like you said, an offhanded comment. And I definitely am not a person who would have spoken up either as a student or a resident, for our trainees.
I mean, that's a classic gender microaggression in medicine, isn't it? That some patients assume the female doctor is the nurse, and the male nurse is the doctor. And if you're already feeling like you don't have the confidence to be able to call it out, that's just going to knock your confidence even more, isn't it? And make you feel even worse about it. So it's really difficult, but I think the answer to that is you have to speak out, don't you? For your own good, and it does make you feel it's scary, and your voice might be kind of wavering while you're saying it, when you're that angry that you get upset, and you're almost tearful. I've been in that situation a few times, and you just don't feel like your vocal cords are even going to obey you, and you're going to be able to get the words out because you're so upset. But it's the right thing to do, isn't it? It does ultimately make you feel like you haven't allowed yourself to be put down. And as you say, it's representing your colleagues and your trainees as well, isn't it?
Exactly. I think what we had going for us was that we were a big group, and we had the nursing staff on our side too, and really there was no other choice. I mean, that's how we presented it. Like we, to stabilize him, we have to this is what we have to do right now, so there's no other choice.
So another tricky one there, but so perfectionism, should we move on to that? Great subject, dear to our heart. Or not. So like we know that doctors get crippled by perfectionism, but do you want to tell me a bit about runners, and where it comes from with runners as well?
We were talking offline about this, what sort of comes first. And I guess it's true for doctoring, but it's true for runners as well. Like a lot of us are very type A people. We like to follow a training plan. I find, especially like high achievers, not just doctors, but we come to running with this, and I don't know if it attracts us or not, but I think a big thing is really there's like no flexibility there. Like we must follow the plan, and if things if we get derailed, it really rattles us, and we feel like we're failing, and we're not we're not going to be able. Example, in my own marathon training, like the first time I trained, I was a wreck if I missed a run, if I had to cut a long run short, and it would automatically go to, I won't be able to do this race, and my coach was constantly saying, and I would tell him these thoughts I was having, and he would say, it's just one run, and you've done the majority of the training, like a little bit here or there is really not, you're going to be able to cross the finish line. And I just didn't believe it. And I think it really holds us back. It can really prevent people from even getting to a starting line sometimes, which is really a sad thing, but but it's there. One of my athletes, I think, so she just completed a first marathon, and one of the most surprising aspects of the training, this is what she said, was that, at the beginning, she really was, she'd print out the training plan that I wrote for the first couple of weeks and really follow it. But then when we started changing things as things went along, that was a little bit nerve-wracking for her. And like she had to become more flexible with the process and realize that, okay, whatever Michelle sends is going to end up changed, in a week or two. But this is like a rough idea of where we're going, but things can change. And I think that flexibility over those months was really like a huge transformation for her and her mind. And I think she took that with her elsewhere, which is really great. But yeah, at the beginning, she was very like nervous every time the plan would change. So that's an interesting thing.
All right. So she thought that the plan would just stay the same every single week for however many months or whatever.
Yeah, like the build would just kind of keep building. And, there were little things here and there, like her back bothered her one week or her foot bothered her and we had to pull back on some things and just, so we adjusted as we go. This is sort of like the beauty of a custom plan. So instead of like printing something out and having the whole, whatever it is, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, like we do it in small increments so that we can change it as we go along. But a lot of us really want to see that whole training cycle written out. And that's fine. Like we can make a draft. I just call it a draft. That's what I do. For the people who like to see the whole thing, we call it a draft and then we just change it as we go. But it's tough. It's tough when you really want to stick with it. So
you're trying to manage people's expectations from very early on.
And even, I mean, we train to paces. And so I will, based on where someone is with their fitness, I write the paces in the corner. But that for some people is like too much. Like it's like if I don't exactly hit the pace, it feels like I didn't do a good job or I didn't do the workout. And especially now with the summer heat, nobody's hitting the paces. No, I'm not hitting the paces. We have to slow it down and measure based on effort. But it's so interesting. Every athlete is different and you have to kind of, are they a big picture person, a forest through the trees? Will they get obsessed with the numbers or not? Can they step away from the numbers,
move away from the numbers.
And run by effort. Like for some people have just deleted a lot of numbers because it's too much. Anyway, but yes, we're an interesting breed. I don't know, but there's a lot of perfectionists who are runners.
And so like if they're getting frustrated with themselves then because they're not achieving like 100% of everything that you're asked, how do you manage that?
I think we celebrate the wins, right? We always focus on the wins and what is working. And most of the time it's really, if you look at the big picture, it may be one workout that maybe, again, like we didn't hit the pace or we were a little bit, we missed it or whatever it is. But most of the time it doesn't end up in a pattern. So it's just trying to recognize that this is just one small bump in the road, so to speak, and trying to recognize that. But we're big on celebrating wins, whatever that is, like new times and distances, consistency. A lot of people are working at consistency and exercising in a consistent way, how they feel, how the body feels. So we focus on the positives. Sometimes I'm a cheerleader, which I like you're doing a great job. You've been consistent. This one run is not going to really make or break the whole training. So but it's hard. You have to get there on your own. I can help.
That's good classic coaching, isn't it? You're in their corner, cheering them on. You've got their back, that kind of thing. I think there's a lot to be said for that, having someone else believe in you.
Or having an objective person just to look at all of the data and say, we are improving over the last X number of weeks, and we're making, strides toward this goal. Maybe not right in this moment, but if you can step back and look at everything else.
being a flexible accountability partner as well. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, so we did say these were going to be your aims for this week or whatever, but just got to roll with the punches, and
Yeah. Yeah.
life throws. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, no, going back to our sort of pre-recorded discussion, we were talking about, so doctors and perfectionism, and where does that come from? Is it, worry, almost sometimes to the point of paranoia about making a medical error and, losing a patient through something like that, or adversely affecting a patient's life, through error, or is it, something that arises before medical school? And I was thinking back, I'm guessing that, because we're all high achievers and we all got high grades at high school and things like that, that there has to be perfectionism there, doesn't there, to get those high grades? And as you say, doctors aren't the only victims of this. Any professional is lawyers, teachers, engineers, that kind of thing. So yeah, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to excel, get the grades required, do everything, do all the things. I don't know what it was like when you were getting into med school, but it was like you had to show that you'd done some voluntary work, and you had to have these skills, and you had to play the piano whilst simultaneously running a marathon and baking a cake while standing on your head. You had to be able to do all of these, show that you were, we could have really gone into anything, couldn't we? The amount of skills that we had to demonstrate to get into medical school. But yeah, I think for me, there was definitely strong perfectionist tendencies there before, and it probably just got accentuated and exacerbated once I started.
I think me too.
Yeah, but
I remember in high school, I say this a lot. I put so much pressure on myself, but I don't know, I can't say that came from anyone else but myself,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
my parents were very supportive
yeah,
people, and yeah, I
yeah,
don't know, like, who thought it was a good idea to take all of these advanced classes, the
yeah,
last 2 years of high school. I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah,
I
yeah.
came up with that idea.
Yeah. No, exactly the same. My parents didn't pressure me at all. My
Yeah.
mum was always like, well, as long as you're happy in life, it doesn't matter. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what you do.
Yeah.
I don't mind what you do. If
Exactly.
doing medicine
Exactly.
makes you happy, then great. I'll support you. But yeah, those thoughts are very sort of pervasive and invasive. They don't serve us at all. They are a form of limiting belief, aren't they? Really,
Yeah.
they hold me back. When it comes to, say, I have I don't know, an essay to write, or an article to write, or something for a journal or whatever, or a presentation. Because you feel like it has to be perfect to your standards. And it makes me really inefficient and procrastinate. So instead of using my time wisely, and it's like, I've got a busy life, I've got young children and stuff, it's like snatching 10 minutes here and there to write another slide on your presentation. It's like, no, I can't work like that. I have to have at least 4 hours of blank space in my diary that I can devote and dedicate to this task. Otherwise I can't do it. And I'm getting better. Very, very much a work in progress, but I'm realizing that is a really unproductive and counterproductive way of working, and actually sets me up to fail. So it's almost like achieves the opposite of perfectionism, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because then you're kind of like perhaps missing deadlines and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah.
So,
No, yeah, I can relate to that. And I think now we're trying to, it's so funny because all of these things served us so well for so long. And now we have to like go back and unlearn. I don't know.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's funny.
True. Yeah. And I am a big advocate of, you know, of progress over perfection, and making imperfect progress, and it being messy, you know, and that's, you know, that's, I kind of like doing stuff like this now. And now you know, I almost use it to justify, you know, if things, you know, if mistakes happen, if you're, you know, during the pandemic as well, you know, we're all kind of doing Zoom calls, and your little ones kind of like, you know, video bomb you in the background, you know, and start asking you about their dress or something like that. It's like, yeah, it's just, you know, it's just messy, but it's life. And actually it's kind of perfect in its own way, but it, you know, it's not slick, it's not professional, but
Right.
do you know what, who cares? You know, that's me, that's what you're going to get.
Yeah.
You know, that's that's me in my authenticity, you
Yeah.
know. And uh if people don't like that, then they're not for me, are they? um
Yep. You find new
Same for
people.
you, I guess. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's wonderful. Have you got anything else you wanted to talk about?
I don't think so. I think we covered at least the three main things
Yeah,
we wanted to
yeah.
talk about.
Yeah, so let's celebrate that. That's a
Yeah.
win. We got them all done. We didn't forget. There was a lot of potential there to get sidetracked.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
but it was
You know
good.
that I can talk about running for, a long time. So you just have to,
Yeah, but
reel me back.
it's all inspiring. It's all inspiring. So, should we share a couple of social media
Oh
handles
yeah,
for
yeah,
people
yeah.
watching?
Tell
Yeah.
us where we can find you and your services.
Yeah, I hang out a lot on LinkedIn. That's my
Yes.
my social media platform of choice. I'm just Dr. Adam Harrison on LinkedIn, but I do have a Facebook page, which is at Coaching Mentoring Doctors. And as we all do now in our little coaching group, I have a YouTube channel which I'm quite proud of. Thank you, Dr. Adam, physician coach, and a clubhouse room, a clubhouse club, sorry. Called High Performing Physician. So please join us there. But yeah, it'd be great to be able to help support anyone that needs any help. How about yourself?
Yeah. So I have not been on Clubhouse, and I'm not on LinkedIn very much, but you inspire me to do that. But you can find me.
I'll keep tagging you then.
Keep
I'm going to
tagging
keep
me.
tagging you now. That's it.
It's fine. I think the best place, well, social media is Instagram. I'm at mindful.marathon. I'm on Facebook, but I don't post as much there. And you can learn about coaching and the coaching packages. And if you want to work with me, on my website, which is mindful-marathon.com. It's probably the best
Superb.
place.
Brilliant. Cool. All right.
All right.
That was lovely.
Yeah, it
Thank you
was
so much for your
great.
time.
Thank you.
Enjoyed
That was very
Yeah.
insightful.
Cool. I hope people get lots of value out of it. So it
Yes, I know they
should be
will.
good.
All
Cool.
right. Take
Awesome.
care.
All right. Take care, mate. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.